So, does that quench your thirst, people?
That'll do, donkey. That'll do.
My only hope this week is to see wide smiles and heightened elation as far as the eye can see, as this was an absolute belter. I didn't necessarily have any major gripes towards last week's episode, it was what it was, and as a lover of almost all the animated Star Wars productions, I enjoy the branch-offs occasionally to allow you to revel in the glory of moments like the solitary clone. That said though, I could understand people's frustrations. However, you cannot deny the amount of context we received in this episode, the quality of the production, and the answers to long-time questions and excellent use of Chekhov's gun. This was a moving, gritty, dark, and insightful episode that utilised a lot of the previous concepts intended for the final seasons of the Clone Wars, but following its cancellation became merely tales of a day that many believed would never arrive. Until now, where thankfully they've managed to repurpose a lot of the assets created and brought them in for us to appreciate the vision that Filoni & Co. had originally intended. I don't want to waste any more time warming you into this because this sure fucking didn't. We start this week's on the space station run by smuggler droids, and Sid has sent the crew out there to hand off a bunch of chain codes that Tech created for a small sum. Hunter leaves Omega and Echo to watch over the ship while he and the rest trek off to hand over the goods. While the droids are verifying every chain code for legitimacy, Omega catches wind of a roar in the distance. As she goes to investigate, she witnesses a young Wookiee being tased by two of the droids. As she tries to stop them, the Wookiee fights back and takes them out. They make a break for it further into the cargo hold of the ship, where Omega is saved by the young Carpet once more, until Echo finds them and they're quickly pinned down, until Hunter and the rest follow the droids to their position and save them. As they hit an impasse, the Wookiee surprises everyone and introduces Omega to her first Jedi. It turns out the young Wookiee is in fact Gungi. For context, Gungi was previously featured in Season 5 of the Clone Wars, where he and a group of younglings found their crystals, encountered Hondo Ohnaka and his pirate crew, saved Ahsoka from him by parading as a circus group, and then went toe-to-toe with General Grievous. So this kid already went through a fair bit with that alone. The last visual appearance of Gungi in Season 5 of the Clone Wars was following Ahsoka's trial in the final part of the season, where Anakin was fighting Barriss on top of the temple. This is why you shouldn't skip Clone Wars, people. Anyway, he is offered the chance to escape with the Batchers and is hesitant due to his distrust of the clones at this point, but figures it's a better option than being shot at by droids. Once they've jettisoned off, Omega manages to get through to Gungi and asks that he trust them. Hunter explains their position in this to break the tension, and Gungi informs him that he was trying to make his way back to Kashyyyk following Order 66 and reunite with his tribe, whoever they may be. The crew is unanimous in its decision to return Gungi to his home world and find his tribe, but upon their arrival they acknowledge the good majority of the planet has been scorched and deforestation has begun in major villages. This means that they're left to search the tree lines and deeper within the jungle, and they're quickly greeted by a small group of Kinrath, spider-like beings known to the world, that were going to be supporting worldly threats in the original story reels for Season 7 or 8 of the Clone Wars, where we would have followed the Bad Batch supporting the Wookiees in their efforts against the Separatist invasion, possibly alongside Quinlan Vos, and the arc would have run us right up to Yoda's arrival in Episode 3. Anyway, Gungi does a Kanan in this moment and connects with them through the Force to assure them that they're safe. As they press further into the forests, the first village that they see is decimated. Omega offers her condolences and informs him that the Empire destroyed their home too, so they understand how he's feeling but will not leave him in this moment. As this happens, they hear more destruction in the distance, and we see a group of Trandoshans burning an assortment of stones that bear a deep significance to the Wookiees, as they're known to be a cultured species in the galaxy and respect the planet they live on, wishing only to do the bidding of the planet and act at its will. Gungi jumps in with the Batch providing support, taking out the small group with the one lowly Wookiee that was captured running off during the fight. That Wookiee returns with a small group of his own, and they escort them to another village run by an elder called Yana. Yana questions why the Batch are there following the war, and after some explanations and displays of support are offered, they stay to help the village stop the impending convoy of Trandos and clones from hunting them. As the battle ensues, the Wookiees and Batchers take it to the Trandos, while Gungi goes after the leader named Commander Venomore. Gungi lures him into a trap where they use the Kinraths, in a good move of Chekhov's gun here in the story, to aid in their assault by using the webs against Venomore and stringing him up as food for later.
What? 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 What?
The episode ends with Gungi remaining in the village and the Batchers cementing their relationship to the Wookiees. I think it's fair to say that we were treated today. This was without a doubt a rewarding experience for Clone Wars fans. The Solitary Clone united fans with the belief that that's the quality of storytelling and production the show should remain at, and this one just slapped us all in the face for thinking anything less of it following the last 2 episodes. The problem with this belief for me is that if you have a show that has a possible longevity like this one does, it will become an emotional overload with constant lashings of thematic beats and narrative progression, until eventually you begin to receive complaints for not letting up on the intensity or that the story has been rushed and is suddenly over. So they throw in these occasional filler episodes as a means to pause on the high-octane action and allow the larger threads of the story to breathe, whilst providing deeper insights into the galaxy's history. In my mind also, the resolutions to overarching plots feel underwhelming or likely won't feel as impactful if you're exhausted by the end. If you constantly run at 100, the series may as well just be limited. I think Filoni and co are looking at this as a long-term plan with the same goggles they had on for the Clone Wars. They've likely got an end goal in mind, but want to explore other areas of Star Wars lore before they reach that journey's end. Anyway, I truly loved this opportunity to not only explore the world of Kashyyyk a little deeper, but to be offered an insight to at least one familiar Jedi's journey post-Order 66, whose name isn't Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, or Kanan Jarrus. The return of Gungi was no secret due to the trailers, but the question of his future was in doubt, and to see that he now still potentially has one adds strength to the Jedi's resolve and the promise of hope with potential characters like him still out there. It was great to see the little expressions on his face when he sees the Bad Batch, and to thicken that layer of history around the likes of him and their distrust of the clones at this point was upsetting, but was a necessary reminder for the story so far. Plus, it gave the Batchers a goal to work towards in this, to establish and cement a relationship with the Wookiees, but not just a Wookiee, a Jedi, that could potentially benefit them later down the line. The fact that he's a Jedi could no doubt be a threat to the village, as he's got every chance of being discovered by the Empire, and they could destroy them alongside him for hiding him from them. But it was also good to see him come through and stand with his people and step up as a leader, and to see him take on Venomore was a perfect development for his character. One last little piece of context I thought was fascinating was the reminder that younglings are taken from their homes so young that he couldn't even remember what tribe he was a part of, or specifically where he was from on the planet. This is what likely left a lot of younglings scrambling following Order 66 due to them having no place in the galaxy to return to, as they would have been raised in the Jedi Temple from such an early age that was their home. To see his mastery of the Force to some degree informs us that he's been practicing in this time, and even to the point he did a Kanan and calmed the Kinrath using his connections to the Force. I also love the hints that were made to imply that the unproduced arc from Clone Wars did in fact happen, with Wrecker's mention of not being there for some time and Hunter's understanding of their practices as a culture would have been explored in that unfinished arc. All these factors that were worked in for Gungi's development here ultimately leaves one question in my mind. What becomes of him now? How does he stay hidden from the Inquisitors and Vader? This falls in relation to my last talking point for this episode. We see by the time of Rebels that Wookiees are being shipped out across the galaxy as slaves for the Empire. But does this mean that Gungi was one of them, or could he have been found and killed before then? We've seen a variety of ways that this story plays out for the Wookiees and the planet of Kashyyyk. Canon or not, inevitably the majority of them are enslaved, with the exceptions being like Chewbacca and a small group seen with Saw Gerrera in Fallen Order, which would be set around 5 to 6 years after this in the timeline. It's interesting that the Empire have partnered with Trandoshans who have a history of war with the Wookiees, something of which was also mentioned / glossed over in Season 3 of the Clone Wars when Ahsoka met with Chewie and they were informed of the growing tensions between both worlds and their species. Whether it be in writing, The Force Unleashed, Fallen Order, or Rebels, they are headed in one direction, and the question remains, what becomes of this world and its inhabitants beyond this 19-year period? This episode gave it all. It was incredibly dark, dire, engaging, action-heavy, and left a fair amount of uncertainty going forward for the future of all involved, including the Bad Batch themselves. Because I think it's fair to wonder if anything will come of this back on them in the future. To see visual whipping, tasering, friendly fire, literally, and the mental imagery of what those Kinraths will do to Venomore was profound and distressing, and restores my faith that the animated projects know who their audience is. To see Omega continue to build bridges with people was great, and she got to engage with someone that was not only her own age, but someone completely different to her. It woke her up to the larger threat against not just various civilizations, but Jedi, as this would likely have been her first encounter with one. The loyalty of the Batchers showed to the Wookiees was an insight to them and what they resonate with on a primal level, and the bonds that the Wookiees have to themselves is something they recognize as much as being allies during the war, which is something that the Batchers feel within their own group. I just wish it resonated stronger, as we can only imagine what occurred in that unfinished arc, but it provided an understanding as to what they respond to, despite what Crosshair accused them of, or lack thereof. Lastly, the visuals, the score, and presentation of this were all round perfect. This demonstrates how far along they've come in terms of the quality of the show and production of the Clone Wars animation style. This season has been pretty much consistent in that regard, but it's always worth mentioning just how fucking gorgeous it all looks and sounds when compiled together. All in all, this was a fantastic installment and has positioned itself in my top 5 of Bad Batch episodes alongside The Solitary Clone for this season already. I'd seriously recommend that you go out of your way to watch this and just have a blast with it. That's all I've got for now though. If you have anything else that you'd wish to discuss, chuck it below, leave a like and subscribe for more, and until next time everyone, take care and may the Force be with you.